Welcome to Good Game, I'm Hex.
And I'm Bajo.
This week it's been Sniper Elite 3 that's kept us busy with its precision timing and accuracy.
That's right, a lot of high-intensity crouch walking. Because crouch equals stealth. Yeah. Can't see me.
Hey, look. Ah! I'm Batman.
Also this week, Transformers Rise of the Darkspark tries to blend multiple universes together, but does it end in a mucky brown mess? Yes, it does.
We're taking losses! We're taking losses! Another one down!
Plus, we dig our way through the old-school 8-bit brutality of Shovel Knight.
Dad Callan explains the finer points of Pokemon in a new lore, and we answer some of your questions at the Ask Good Game desk.
But before all that, can you name the game for this week?
Hex, when I heard there was a new Transformers game, my heart skipped a beat, but then it proceeded to break in half when I saw the box art, because these are Michael Bay's Transformers in Rise of the Darkspark.
There is no escape, Decepticon. Surrender the Darkspark or be destroyed.
I propose a tertiary alternative.
From the very first moments of this Transformers adventure, you know you're in trouble. And I'm not exactly sure, Bajo, but is this Decepticon trying to do a cheesy Arnie impression?
The Darkspark empowers its master to bend the very fabric of the universe and its inhabitants to his will.
I listened to that a few times, wondering if the devs were serious.
Yeah, it almost seems like developers Edge of Reality knew what game they were making, and they've let those frustrations come through in the dialogue.
This is our finest hour. Cybertron is nearly ours.
The Transformers themselves know they're in for a long and dull journey, and they just want it over with.
What is this insanity? What is the meaning of this attack?
Yes, by all means, let us continue this pointless fool's errand.
I haven't seen the recent film because I'm mostly still upset about the last three, but let's talk about the story. The Darkspark is your typical MacGuffin. It can bring ultimate destruction if it falls into the wrong robotic hands by bending the universe to the owner's will. And unfortunately, it's through this mechanic that the writers are trying to bring together the worlds of the movies and the previous games.
In this third-person shooter, you take on the role of, well, almost everyone, as you battle through both sides of the war, trying to track down and take possession of this ancient artifact.
Isn't the imaginary vault for your imaginary Darkspark this way? I imagine so.
The game makes you constantly swap characters, and this makes an already contrived story more complicated for absolutely no reason.
Yeah, I think they were just trying to keep fans happy by letting you play as your favorite bot.
Yeah, possibly, and maybe that would have worked if they'd really nailed the characters, but it's almost like they base their research off just a couple of episodes and maybe someone read the synopsis of all three films on Wikipedia.
Autobots, open fire!
Let's see what we got!
Now, I know you see Optimus Prime as kind of a childhood hero. Do you think they got him right at least?
Well, when you have Peter Cullen, the voice of Optimus, to lend his vocal talents, it's hard not to squeal a little inside. But that squeal was muffled by a lot of general sighing.
I love how Optimus says that this, again, is their darkest hour.
That's how he starts all his monologues. Yeah.
This is our darkest hour.
It's hard not to feel underwhelmed by this game almost instantly. The very first level is essentially a series of wave modes in some pretty bland environments that were even a bit tricky to drive through. It's not a good-looking game, and Hex, I think some of those textures belong on last gen.
I tried creating a slow pan montage of some of the more spectacular scenes, and this is what I ended up with.
Just beautiful, Hex.
On the plus side, the shooting mechanics do work really well, and there's a good variety of weapons. Things like acid slime cannons, to my personal favorite, the Tech Vault, which makes short work of your robotic foes. But upgrading the guns just didn't seem to have any real effect, and I spent more of my time in battles dash attacking, as it felt better and got me through the fights faster.
I think the biggest letdown for me was the transforming, which is a problem when your game is called Transformers. For a start, there were times where the game wouldn't even let me transform for some reason or another, which I took particular offense to.
Tunnels. We will meet you on the other side.
But also, I rarely felt the need to transform into vehicle mode, and the whole point of a Transformers game is that ability to transform.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I'd be switching between forms to travel long distances or maybe solve some platforming puzzles, but it's like they forgot they were making a Transformers game.
I remember talking to High Moon Studios, who were the developer behind 2 of the recent and decent Transformers games, and they said that that was one of their biggest challenges, building an entire game where your main character can be a robot or a vehicle at any time. The real difference, though, between their excellent Cybertron series of Transformers games is that they have a real love for the characters and the lore, and that shines through constantly. I even cried a little in the last one, Hex.
Till all are one.
You brave fool. Perhaps this developer also has a love for Transformers, but being tied to a movie franchise and the often short development time that comes with that, maybe that smothered it a little.
I find it interesting that just a few years ago, nearly every big Hollywood movie had a short and nasty game tie-in, but we don't really see that much these days, so I was surprised this game even got made, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought those days were behind us as well. Games are not easy to make, even a movie game, and with more choice out there now for gamers, I wonder how this kind of game can still exist and still get funding. Overall, this is a functional cardboard box of a game. I'm giving it 4 out of 10 rubber chickens. It hurt my childhood a little.
Yeah, it feels rushed, and it probably was. Rise of the Darkspark will soon be appearing in a budget bin near you. I'm giving it 4 out of 10 as well.
They're getting away! Your incompetence never ceases to amaze me, Starscream. Save your bobs for later. We can't let them escape.
No escape.
Are you really not going to see the movie? It's got your favourite one in it, Grimlock, the dinosaur.
I'm upset just thinking about it.
Here's Goose with the news.
Thanks, guys. Blizzard Entertainment's Chief Creative Officer Rob Pardo has left the studio. After a 17-year career with the esteemed developer, including work on the original StarCraft, Pardo describes his exit as bittersweet, but ultimately exciting. He's yet to announce where he's headed, but has expressed that he's looking forward to new challenges. Recent reports suggest Digital Extremes, the developers of popular free-to-play shooter Warframe, is being jointly acquired by 2 separate Chinese companies. The 2 companies involved in the negotiation are MMO house Perfect World and, oddly, Sampo Food, a company that deals in chicken meat products. This report has upset the Warframe player base, which in response launched a no-play strike, citing fear that the potential new owners would ruin the game by building paywalls for content. Digital Extremes has not yet commented on the co-acquisition reports. Development studio Airtight Games has quietly closed its doors after 10 years in operation. The studio released Murdered Soul Suspect in early June, a game which was met with poor critical and commercial reception.
How the hell did I survive that?
While there is yet to be any official word from the developer itself, tweets from the company as well as sale signs at the studio's physical site have all but confirmed the closure. The EVO Championship Series for 2014 has received an unexpected backer this year, Nintendo. The Japanese publisher has notoriously opposed the streaming of its Super Smash Bros. Series in the past.
You can see how so good Armada is at using Peach's float like that to do this edge guarding. Oh, definitely.
Just last year, it denied the EVO tournament permission to broadcast Super Smash Bros. Melee, although it later reversed its decision.
Smash and Wobbles is gonna go down. 3-1 Mango has come all the way back.
And this year, Nintendo has embraced the tournament, signing off as official sponsors. And that's all the news for this week.
Thanks, Goose. We've been having a bit of a retro renaissance of late, especially thanks to crowdfunding. But few games have recreated that retro DNA as accurately as Shovel Knight.
Yes, Shovel Knight really taps into that 8-bit era, and the deeper we dug into this platform, the more nostalgia we unearthed. Such as the way the game pauses for a moment to scroll the next screen into view. I'd forgotten how old school games did that. It brought so many memories back.
I know what you mean. I half expected the game to have sprite flickering or maybe a password save system.
Yes, I'm glad they left that one in the history books.
As you'd expect from a classic platformer, the realm is being threatened, this time by an evil enchantress. And the only hero for the job is our knight and his trusty shovel. Not sure why he couldn't afford a sword, but a shovel works pretty well.
Yes, he can whack enemies with it, and of course dig up treasure. But the shovel's main use tends to be a sort of pogo stick of death. Not only can the pogo attack kill enemies, but it can also break platforms.
They've baked a lot of secrets into these levels too, haven't they? Often I'd find a secret room by digging into the wall. Or a new path I needed to bounce off an enemy just right in order to reach it. Plus, it's the first platformer I've played where you take a break for a spot of fishing.
For me, this game gets that old school difficulty level just right. The platforms themselves aren't too hard to navigate, but when you're being attacked, it's a lot easier to mess something up. Plus, dying robs you of a big chunk of loot, which you can only reclaim if you make it back to where you died. And I thought that was kind of cool because it's got a bit of a Dark Souls vibe to it.
Yeah, I think personally they could have balanced the checkpoints a little better though. I mean, there was definitely a few occasions where a really hard room was put right at the end of a bunch of easy ones.
Yeah, maybe putting them just after a checkpoint would have been better, but I'm so glad they included all of these tough bits. Like this section where you can flick jelly droplets onto lava to turn it into bounce pads until the jelly melts and then you die. One thing I thought was really good is how you can destroy checkpoints for loot. Of course, you can't return to them then.
Yeah, I thought that was cool as well, a bit of risk reward in there. You can also upgrade your Humble Knight quite a bit as well. The levels are littered with gems, which you can trade to shopkeepers for extra health or magical upgrades. The Fireball upgrade quickly became my go-to magic attack.
I did get stumped more than once until I realised which upgrade I needed to get past a certain section. It's invulnerability to get over spikes. Got it. So there's a little bit of backtracking, Metroidvania style.
Look, I think this game recreates that retro flavour perfectly, and if this came out in the 80s, I think it would be one of the best platformers of its time, but I can't help but feel like I just wish it added something new to the mix.
I don't know, that's what I like about it. I like how hardcore this game is. It's true to its roots, and it reminded me of just how hard games were back then. We've got it pretty easy nowadays.
Yeah, but I think games were hard back then for a reason. You know, one game would come out and you'd have that game for like 6 months to tide you over. So, you know, making a game that hard would give you bang for your buck. But nowadays we have so many games at our disposal. I think, you know, I just prefer a retro game that adds something new. The Time Travel and Super Time Force is a great example, or Spelunky's randomly generated levels.
Well, if you'd like to play something that ignores the last 30 years of game design, then Shovel Knight is for you. I'm giving it 8.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
It's a 7 from me.
Right, well, we should go answer some questions at the Ask Good Game desk.
Let's. Okay, well, our question for today is from Brandon, who is in Caboolture, Queensland. I've noticed at this E3 that almost all of the games are online co-op only, or one of its redeeming features. I've been more of a single-player fan for a while now, and this is worrying me. Are single-player exclusives out the door? In future, will every game be online-based? Do you two hope that single-player remains? Thanks, guys. Love the show.
Well, Brandon, that certainly did strike me as a bit of a theme this year. From the co-op in the new Assassin's Creed game, to Far Cry, to a purely multiplayer-focused Fable game of all franchises, and stuff like Splatoon, The Division, Evolve, Rainbow Six, Destiny, there was a definite feeling that multiplayer and co-op are getting more attention across the board than usual.
Yeah, but I honestly don't think that you have to worry about single-player games disappearing anytime soon. There are lots of gamers like yourself out there, not to mention a lot of developers who love crafting those amazing story-driven experiences.
Yeah, and even this year we've seen Wolfenstein just go completely single player, which is pretty rare for a first-person shooter. And we've got massive games coming up like Witcher 3, Dragon Age Inquisition, Shadow of Mordor, The Order 1886, and Quantum Break. And as far as we know, all of those are single-player focused.
Yeah, personally, I'm with you though, Brandon. I love a well-told story in a game with a universe that I can just lose myself in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what single-player games do the best is make you feel stuff, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the most incredible things about video games is the fact that you develop a connection with them more than other narrative mediums because of that interactive element. So for me, that's really exciting, and that's where I want to see games pushing boundaries and creating new story experiences. I mean, that said, I'm all for games adding in online aspects as long as I can still enjoy the game solo.
I loved how Dead Space 3 did it, because you could play that solo or co-op, but if you chose to play on your own, you wouldn't see some derpy AI buddy. It was removed all completely with tweaked cutscenes. But if you played with co-op, it was like any other co-op game, and I thought that was a perfect way of handling it. it. And, you know, I think that single-player games are trying to up their solo campaigns. I think the cops and robbers setting for the new Battlefield could work really well. Of course, they've got Kevin Spacey in the new Call of Duty, so fingers crossed his performance can add a bit more weight to that single-player game too.
And that's where I come in.
Call of Duty really needs to work on their single-player storytelling, don't they?
Yes.
Well, we'll have to wait and see how they turn out, I suppose. But now I think it's you review time. And speaking of games that tried to blur the single-player and multiplayer, let's see what everyone thought of the highly anticipated Watch Dogs.
Let's do it.
And general opinion seems to be quite positive, with most of you giving some pretty decent scores. Sozomatic here said, "Sick as man, best game ever," and gave it 7.5 stars.
Likewise, Reaper9831 seemed to enjoy it a lot, saying, "This was an awesome game, but it sucks that you can't fly anything."
That's unusual.
8.5 stars.
Clayton, meanwhile, gave us this glowing review. "It's a really cool game. I like that you can hack and the story. 10 out of 10.
Ninja Crab Gamer took issue with what is perhaps a slightly misleading title, writing, "Not as much fun as GTA 5, but still lots of hacking fun, although I could not find one dog."
Really? Yeah. Well, do me a favor. Let's get on with it. How much time do we have?
7.5 stars.
Yeah, that was disappointing, but not everyone was so impressed. Fandango here took particular issue with the graphics, saying, "Horrible game. Does not even have dynamic shadows, but GTA 4 did."
What are you, 6?
4.5 stars.
And Harry here seemed to be almost completely indifferent, writing, "It is okay, but not a must-have game."
Kick me when I'm down.
5 stars.
Meanwhile, Guest had some harsh words for one version of the game in particular and said, "PC version just sucks."
Think?
3 stars.
Ouch. Well, a fairly mixed bag of opinions there, and don't forget if you'd like to leave your own review, you can do that on our website and our Good Game app. On that note though, here's Dave.
A wild David appears. Why? Why would you do that? At least use a luxury ball or a love ball, ladies. If I was a Pokemon, I'd be a Snorlax. Huge, bipedal, and dozy, and only found if you set your equipment to the Pokeflute channel, whatever the hell that means. No, you can't come out. You ate all my food and you weed on the floor. Have you ever stopped and thought how, in the name of all things Pokédexual, do those living creatures fit into these tiny Pokeballs? Well, there's some actual in-game science behind that. Pokeballs were originally made from apricorns, a special type of fruit native to the Johto region.
So this is what an apricorn Pokeball looks like.
It's like a cross between an apricot, an acorn, and a star sign. A specialist hollows out an apricorn and fits it with the tech needed to catch Pokemon. Different types of apricorn fruit, some extremely rare, can result in different types of Pokeballs. Although the balls went into mass production by the Devon Corporation and Self Company, creating at least 26 types, the black band is a locking mechanism, whereas the white button on the front enables the Pokeball to shrink and fit on a trainer's belt. But let's take a look at what life is like inside a Pokeball. It's not known exactly what happens to a Pokemon that's zapped inside one, but based on what we can gather, a Pokemon is somehow transferred into a state of pure energy. It's said that Pokemon naturally have this transformative ability. In fact, it's how they evolve, and all a Pokeball does is trigger this effect. Once inside, they've been reduced to pure data in the form of light and bounced around by tiny glass mirrors. You know, it sounds like when they're inside the Pokeball, they've essentially reverted to Pong, which is extremely meta. Why, if they've just been bouncing around inside a tiny ball, do they always come out so fresh and ready for battle? You never see a Pokemon come out and go, actually, can you give me a sec? I feel a bit queasy. What? That's not even a Pokeball this time. You can't trap me in cake. I can, however, trap a cake in me. Yes, I did just write cake into the script so I can have some. This is part of my Poke training.
Thanks, Dave. Sniper Elite 3 isn't what you'd call a great game. It's buggy, there are glitches and invisible walls everywhere, and I'd say even parts of it are quite broken. And yet, we can't stop playing it.
Also, a graphic content warning. This game is pretty much a bone-shattering, organ-piercing simulator.
Snipers are needed the wall!
Sniper Elite 3 is actually a prequel set before the second game, so story-wise, think of it as Sniper Elite 1.5. Although you'd be forgiven for not picking that up, because in terms of plot and characters, there isn't a whole lot to soak up.
None of them are comfortable having someone like me around.
Your missions require you to stay hidden, mark your targets, and snipe your way through fairly large maps and get out alive.
Yes, generic white dude with a gun is back, and he's got skulls to crack. It's set in World War II. You're a sniper, and the Nazis have some secret plan that you must stop. But being set in Africa, the game has a different feel to the last two. It feels more open, but I do miss those abandoned buildings from the last game. You're thrown in a zone, given a mission, and how you complete it is mostly up to you. I really like that kind of freedom, but the maps do feel a bit restrictive at times, with some invisible walls and ledges that you just can't quite get through.
Yeah, I mean, a sniper really needs to be able to go anywhere, but there's level design brick walls all over the place. But this is a very different type of shooter, which is part of the appeal. You're so vulnerable as a sniper that there is no urge to run and gun. The sniping mechanics are interesting too. One new mechanic is relocation. If you shoot once, you can remain stealthy as long as you relocate a certain distance to a new area. Shoot twice and your cover is blown. It's way more fun than just hiding behind a wall for 30 seconds waiting for some unseen stealth timer to count down.
Yeah, I like how it keeps you moving so it just doesn't turn into a shooting gallery.
The whole game is pretty much a shoot and scoot. Enemies react more to sound than anything else, which often feels unfair, especially if you're sneaking about in the dark.
Yeah, there were times where I was absolutely sure no enemy had a line of sight to me, but the moment I stood up, busted custard.
Ich habe ihn im Visier!
And that does make the map slow going, but I was enjoying the gameplay so much, I didn't really mind.
I did. I think if you're going to put stealth in your game, then those mechanics need to be really clear and well defined.
I think the broken parts of this game add a layer of unpredictability to it. Like the AI, for example, and I think the best way to describe them is a bit wacky.
Da ist der!
They do have some nice animations, especially when they spot you and suddenly reload, making your initial aiming very difficult. But you can't trust them. One minute they seem to be blind and confused, the next, they're unstoppable Terminators.
Yeah, look, I think despite how unfair this game can feel at times, it's those moments where you get spotted that it really shines. This is a game that rewards you for being a cautious sniper, and that's what it should be doing.
I liked all of the gadgets. Throwing rocks to distract enemies, putting down flint and fire to lure them into a trap, all the landmines. I wish there were a few more types of gadgets though, and maybe a few more opportunities to really set up a good ambush and truly make use of them.
Yeah, I think my favourite moments were when you got to hide the noise of your shots. Like something in the environment that's making enough noise to cover them.
That's loud enough to cover my rifle fire.
The heartbeat monitor returns, and this is a fantastic mechanic because it means you have to calm down before you can have a steady, focused shot. And that idea just really plays to that sniper role. The hallmark of this game, though, is the slow motion kills, and they pull no punches.
It's intense, isn't it? Especially when jaws and skulls shatter.
Yes, and every now and then you see just a hint of testicles. I haven't quite got a testicle shot yet, Hex, but not for lack of trying.
Well, it's good to have goals, I guess. You can quickly skip these slow-mo kills if you want to, and surprisingly the game is only rated MA15+. Without trying to sound sadistic, the gore certainly adds something unique to the game, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. It adds a weight to the deaths of some sort. The X-ray mechanic reminds me a lot of Mortal Kombat, but Mortal Kombat tends to revel in the gore a bit more, and I don't know, do you think this glorifies the gore?
I think the difference with this is it's a more surgical approach to that gore. It's anatomical. It's showing you how, with one bullet, you were able to take this enemy out, because you are a sniper after all.
Plus, it's a constant reminder that inside each of us there is a spooky skeleton.
True. You can also play through the campaign in co-op, which is a very welcome feature.
Okay, aim on the one on the far left. I mean the far right. 3, 2.
It's much harder because if your teammate goes down, it's game over.
Nope.
And it's more complicated than just lining up two enemies and firing in sync.
Taking a searchlight gun.
That'll just create too much noise, so there's some real strategy to it.
Yeah, I quite like sneaking around with a silenced pistol while your co-op buddy covers you from afar. That was quite fun.
That went pretty good.
Team Deathmatch is a tense and unique experience, but most of the time it's this. But when there is a flicker of movement, your heart will pound as you try to take the enemy out without giving yourself away.
I like it when you and your enemy have spotted each other and you're both in this long-range epic duel.
I found someone who's not you. Oh! Oh, damn!
This really is about making that one shot count, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's you. It is. Come on. No, no! Oh, God damn it.
I also really enjoyed a mode called No Cross, which puts up a barrier between teams and forces everyone to just snipe. We played this on PC, and at the time of review there weren't many people playing online on the local servers, so that was a bit of an issue. Overall though, I had a pretty good time with this, warts and all. I think they're really onto something with the idea of this game. I just wish there was a higher budget version of it.
Yeah, I think there are some compelling mechanics and ideas, but it's all just a bit too rough for me to recommend it at all, really. Especially the console version, which is criminally overpriced for what it is. I'm giving it 5.
I think it's worth a see.
No.
Again!
And the teabag. Oh! That teabag cost me my life.
So, did you name the game for this week? It was Monster Truck Madness 64. Ported from the original PC release, this 1999 game featured a large roster of trucks and tracks custom built for messy gameplay. With a heavy tie-in with the professional wrestling community, many of the trucks were based on famous wrestlers of the time, including Hollywood Hogan and Rampage. And it's our Name the Game this week because the port was developed by Edge of Reality, the team behind this week's Transformers Rise of the Dark Spark.
Next week we return to Fable Town to solve the mystery in the final chapters of The Wolf Among Us.
They won't bring back Lily or Faye.
And thanks to a successful crowdfunding campaign, Divinity Original Sin is primed for dungeon crawling and looting aplenty.
You'll be happy to hear we've reached Sicil, but there's trouble offshore.
Don't forget to keep your votes coming in for the Good Game Top 100 special. We have loved seeing what you voted for so far, and voting closes on the 27th of July.
Well, until next time, may all your games be good ones. Hex out.
Bajo out. See you next week.
What's this?
Just getting a bit relaxed. Getting off a relaxing.
You know how I sit when I want to be relaxed?
How do you sit? I've seen you sit like that a lot.
That's why I never
I bet
wear
I could get more
skirts.
relaxed than you.